you for joining me for today's episode of Play With It with Cass Allen. And if you've been following me, you know that we switched the subject from dating to family. We're discussing 5 primary relationships in most people's lives relative to the level of family, and that includes parents and siblings, as we discussed in overview. Today we're talking about grandparents. For many of us, if you're lucky enough to meet your grandparents, whether they're biological or otherwise, there tends to be a special relationship between children and grandparents. A lot of children tend to bond with their grandparents for a number of reasons. Sometimes the grandparents become so seasoned, in handling children that they are able to skip all those mistakes they make with their own first child, and offer more fun to their grandchildren, especially knowing that they can send them home. A lot of kids, including myself, I was lucky enough to have a relationship with some of my grandparents, and I cherish those memories. I felt like I could talk to them about things I might not necessarily have spoken to my parents about. As my own case, I got spoiled by my grandparents. Your grandparents could protect you from your parents. I was watching a movie the other day, and this woman was coming in her, I'm not sure if it was a movie, actually a video. I watched so much stuff, but I saw a clip where a woman was maybe in her 50s, and she was coming at her son. He was maybe in his 30s, and she had a shoe. And she was coming at him hard, and he was moving fast. It doesn't matter how old you are. He was getting the fuck out of her way. And right before she got to raise that shoe and come after him, another woman came into view. And it was her mother. And her mother made her put the shoe down. And not only did she have her put the shoe down, she gave her grandson some money. And the grandson told the mother, you can't mess with me now because you're grounded. So that shows the impact that grandparents can have in the life of grandchildren. And knowing they can supersede your parents can make them favorite just on that alone. Of course, not everybody has had great relationships, and that's why we're exploring this right now. As y'all know, we're just going into the meat of the relationships that we're going to go into some depth in. Again, as I said, I was lucky enough to have shared some time with my grandparents, in particular the women that I called my grandmothers. There was a point in my life where I had 2, and with information, there was a point in my life where I had 3, due to some adoption and revelations in my family. As a sidebar, for those of you who don't know, I produce a show named Blood Runs Deep on YouTube. It's a dramedy series about a family with a lot of secrets that's going to therapy to try to unpack some of that stuff. In the show, obviously, because it's a family, we have these roles. I would offer you the opportunity to watch that show, and as you watch that show, come back and check out this podcast. They do align in many ways. As I discuss these relationships, we'll be talking about, as I said, the positive and the negative aspects, and much of that is also reflected in the show Blood Runs Deep, so check it out. I'm not going to go too long. As y'all already know, this is just an intro into the different types of relationships that we'll be discussing throughout the next few weeks. I personally think grandparents are a great source of information to help us understand our parents. I don't think we as children realize the access we have to learn our parents better. A lot of children go through a phase with their parents where they get on your nerves, they make you sick, blah, 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 but I recommend to some of you, if you have that opportunity, to spend some time with your parents' parents. You might like them better once you find out that they've been through a lot of stuff you've been through, and you're really not that different. We'll go into that some more again, like I said in later episodes. So on that note, I'm going to say have a good day and have a good night. This has been Cass Allen on Play With It.